Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Division 2, and today I will be showing an update to my critical build. However, it is no longer called critical negotiations, it is now called situation critical. Do you hear me? I say it's now called situation is critical. The situation is critical. But anyway, uh, as apart from the last build video I did, a lot has changed, except for Coyotes Mask, because let's be honest, it's one of the best exotics in the game, especially if you are going for a critical build, whether it's critical hit chance or critical damage or both in general. It's really good. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into the build. So for the most part, it is mainly I mainly use submachine guns, but for right now I am running the P416 and the CMMG Banshee. So here's the stats on that. So not all that great. They're meh stats, so they're kind of in the middle. But I do have something like this AUG here, which I do equip if I do want to hit a little harder. But the CMMG has the rate of fire, so I can dispatch enemies rather quickly when I'm using this one. But really well, except for like the T821, I think it's called. It looks like a Uzi. I don't use that submachine gun. So in this case, I'd rather use the CMMG Banshee, the AUG, the MP5, or I will use a P90. And the MPX is not bad either. So here's the stats for the P416. As you can see, it's got the damage to armor, so its stats are a bit better than the CMMG Banshee. I actually have the weapon damage fully spec'd for 15%. I also have strained, which I'm running the talent on both weapons, so I can get that extra 50% critical hit damage. So here's my pistol. I'm running the X45 with 162k damage, and I also have strained on this as well. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the attachments that I'm running. I'm running the Demolitionist specialization, so that I can get that extra plus 7% to my critical hit chance. I have 5% with the another 5% with the Osprey 9 suppressor. I also have the Heavy Spring 9mm mag that gives me plus 10 to critical hit damage, and the Russian Red Dot, which is another 5%. So I have 15% damage on this, critical hit damage, and I have 12% critical hit chance. So now for the P416, I am also running something similar with that 10% critical hit damage and 7% critical hit chance. And so I have the same 12% on this weapon and just a 10% on the critical hit damage. And then I have an accuracy mod. But I can always switch it out for a red dot, if I want my critical hit damage to hit a little harder, in addition to that damage to armor. So just so I can stay a little bit more accurate, I put the 10% accuracy with the hollow sight. So now let's get into armor. As you can see, to kick it off, we're gonna start off with Coyotes Mask. As you can see here, this is a new Coyotes Mask that I happen to get out of the exotic cache, which is from the Shade Requisition project, which resets every week. And these stats are much better. As you can see, I still have the same max roll 15% weapon damage, but on this I have almost max roll critical hit chance and almost max rolled critical hit damage as well. And for the offensive mod slot, I put additional 11.4% critical hit damage on it. So pretty powerful piece. So if we add that up, doop, that's 24. I mean, pause, that's 22 plus the 4.8%. So you know that's about 22.1. You know, 22.1. That's if we know, because it only goes to the first decimal. So 22.1, around there. You know, in terms of my critical hit damage on just this piece of gear alone. So I went over it in the last video, but for those of you who are new watching it, I'm gonna go over it again. So the talent on Coyotes Mask is called Pack Instincts. This is what also makes it a great support exotic 2. You and all your allies gain a bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. Meaning the last enemy that you, the person running Coyotes Mask, the distance of the last enemy you hit, that's the bonus that you and your allies are gonna get. So if you're at between 0 to 15 meters, you'll get plus 25% critical hit damage. If you're at 15 to 25, you get plus 10% critical hit damage and plus 10% critical hit chance. And anything over 25, you get plus 25% critical hit chance. So the fact that I'm running, a sub and assault rifle, I'm usually going to be within the first 2 brackets. So I can either get the 25% critical hit damage or that plus 10% to both. For my chest piece, I'm running Sokolov combat harness. To get plus 10% to my SMG damage. We have a max roll on this one. The stats are not all that great, but I do have a 4.2% critical hit chance, and it's good to have a little bit of skill damage. So I don't really mind that, but I would have preferred like a critical hit damage. Ooh, excuse me, feeling burpy. Sorry, I just had some delicious Krispy Kreme donuts. I don't know what's in them donuts, but them joints are addicting. But anyway, for my offensive mod slot, I put in a 10.8% critical hit damage just to add to that critical hit chance. And I also re-rolled it as far as the talent, and I put on Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 5 seconds, which stacks up to 15 times, meaning the max amount of weapon damage you can get from this is 15%. So already with just my chest piece and my mask alone, we getting some heavy hits off on some enemies. For my, damn it, I lost the word, holster, there we go. For my holster, I have a Grupo Sombra, which I had to do some looking on YouTube and found that this an Apex just updated. But to get off that Apex, everything's distracting me today. Grupo Sombra, this was one of the gear sets that I have, one of the 2 gear sets that I have equipped on this build that I have overlooked, and I wish that I hadn't, because they can get really give you like a really powerful critical hit damage, critical hit chance. But anyway, I have the 15% critical hit damage, which is what the gear set gives you off rip. I have a max roll for weapon damage, and I also have 12.9% to repair skills, and I re-rolled it rigmarole, which is that critical hit damage. So add this up. This is 27% critical hit damage on this piece alone, which is great. I'm really hoping to find one with critical hit chance, at least just one of them roll maxed with the weapon damage, and then I can re-roll the other stat. It doesn't really matter. So next up, with the other gear set that I overlooked, was Cheska Viroba. I hope I pronounced that right, but I probably butchered the living hell out of it. Same thing here. Max weapon damage. I have the 10% critical hit chance due to the gears, to the weapon, to armor set. 10% hazard protection. You know, it's hazard protection. It protects you from like the bleed and other stuff, like status effects. So I don't mind taking the extra 10%. And that was max roll, so that's really not. I'm really not knocking that. And same thing as the holster. I re-rolled for the secondary attribute for 12% critical hit damage. So I have my 10% critical hit chance and my 12% critical hit damage. So what I'm trying to do is balance out the critical hit chance and critical hit damage on a lot of these pieces, so that, you know, I don't have too much critical hit damage and not enough critical hit chance, or too much critical hit chance and then, you know, or not a lot of critical hit damage. So it's a give and take, kind of try to balance it out. Another piece of gear that I overlook, which I shouldn't have, is Contractors Gloves. So in my journey on YouTube, looking up, you know, good sets to put on for this critical build, this is amazing. Let me repeat it again. This piece of armor alone is amazing. So the specialized stat for this named item is the 8% damage to your armor. Did you hear me? The 8% damage to your armor. Now damage to armor is one of the best multiplicative stats you can have, because when you're playing on challenging and higher up and you just melt people's armor, like it just melts, like you ever leave chocolate in the sun and it just melt, that's what you're gonna do to people's armor. It's just gonna disappear within seconds, just within seconds, especially if you got a damage build like I do. But anyway, the damage to armor is always going to come max rolled on named items. So whatever special stat a named item has, that special stat is going to come max rolled. At least for me. Leave a comment in the comments if you've ever gotten something that has a max roll with a special stat. So I've got explosive resistance as a secondary stat, and for the main stat I re-rolled it so that I can have max weapon damage at 15%. So not much to talk about with the gloves, other than they're amazing. And now for the book bag, which I would say I would have to, you know, re-get, because I don't have any stats pertaining to my build on here other than the offensive slot, which is the Walker Harris and Co. Book bag. As you can see, I have the 5% weapon damage, which the armor set will give you with one piece. I max rolled it for weapon damage. For my attributes, I have 14,000 plus 14,000 health and plus 7.6% hazard protection. You know, not bad. So yeah, for my offensive slot, I just added in some critical hit damage. You know, just added it in to somewhat alleviate, you know, the attributes, since I don't have any critical hit chance at least or damage. And for the talent, I'm running Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 5% for 15 seconds, which stacks up to 5 times. So math, just do 5 times 5, which is 25. So you kill 5 enemies, you get 25% weapon damage. So yeah, without further ado, let's go into my stats, and we're gonna do a weapon by weapon, because depending on what attachments and the stats of your weapon, these main weapon stats, they'll change. So to show you what I'm talking about, here's the stats for the CMMG Banshee. Now when I switch to the P416, here's the stats for the P416. As you can see, a little bit less on the critical hit damage and a 13% at the armor damage. So whichever weapon I switch to in battle has incentive to switching to that. Here's the stats for the X45, and then you've got your grenade launcher for some reason. But anyway, here's the stats for the CMMG Banshee. As you can see, when you average it out, I'm clocking in between 128 to 133% critical hit damage. My critical hit chance is always usually in the 40s, 48, just somewhere in the 40s. So decent amount of critical hit chance, because the critical hit chance cap is 60%. So 40% is it's pretty good. Oh, excuse me. Then I have that 8% armor damage. My weapon damage is 118. PvP 37,000. So and then here also, for my all weapons damage bonus, I get 101.4% all weapon damage bonuses. Now also, another thing that will come into play is the Keener's Watch upgrades. So as you can see, if I go to my Keener's Watch for weapon damage, I have a total of 6.4% extra weapon damage. For critical hit chance, I have an extra 5.4, and for critical hit damage, I have an extra 10.4%. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Do not neglect the Keener's Watch upgrades, because that will also help you a lot, and I mean a lot, in terms of getting your weapon damage to where you want to be. And also it makes it a lot easier to make these critical builds, and like armor that's not all that, like say this book bag that I have, or something like the chest piece. It'll help make up for that loss until you get something better. So here's all my talents. Everything is running strained. And if I go down, I also have the for your specialization, you have weapon upgrades, so you can get like up to, what is it, I think it's 15% extra in weapon damage for your weapons, for like weapons in general. So here I have submachine gun damage bonus, which is the Sokolov, which gives you that 10%, and then spray and pray from the specialization upgrade. I have that 25%, which gives me 35% bonus damage. For assault rifles, I have an extra 15% damage to assault rifles. So here are all my gear talents, my armor. It's not all that, but it's decent. All my resistances, my hazard protection, once again not all that great, but I'll build it up. My skills, not all that great, but it's just mostly gunplay for me. For this build, if you really like gunplay, you don't really use skills all that much, this is a good build. Yeah, the armor is not gonna be all that, because as you can see, everything on my build is fully spec'd into damage and maxed for damage. It sucks you gotta give that up, but once again, with Keener's Watch, which I have max for my total armor, it'll help you out a lot, so you won't be getting one-shotted by the most basic of red dudes in these DC streets. So yeah, that's gonna end the video. Just giving a quick showing off the updates and things I've made to my build. Hopefully, you know, over these next few months I'll be able to perfect it and get it better, and you know, I'll be able to go into the dark zone for once and not get pooped on. But before we leave, we're just gonna open this field proficiency cache because it's been blinking non-stop and it's annoying the hell out of me, so I'm just gonna open it. Let's see what we get. Wow, we got a gear set from that. We didn't really get anything we wanted, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. With that being said, if you enjoyed the content that you have seen today, please hit that like button. No, in fact, don't hit the like button. I'm gonna need you to rage out on the like button, rage out on the subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can see whenever I upload, well, everything that I upload, because for some reason whenever you subscribe is not already on you getting all notifications, which is stupid. It's not stupid, it's stupid. So with that being said, rage out and peace out. And speaking of out, I'm out. Later, and I will see you in DC, agent.